from the City of Entertainment in the Las Vegas Arts District at the English Hotel, a place for the cultured renegade. This is April in Vegas with this week's special guest,
Gerald Dean,
Grant Philipo,
plus Steve Dennis, and your host, April Brucker.
Steve, we have a great show planned today. Our first guest is the host of a podcast that I've appeared on.
Prison Wives?
No, the Local Joker podcast, which means our first guest is stand-up comedy headliner and podcast host Gerald Dean.
Gerald Dean, I thought Flip Wilson passed a while ago.
No, Steve. Gerald Dean. 2 words, and he's very funny, by the way. Now, Steve, what would Vegas be without museums? We have the Mob Museum, the Haunted Museum, and the Showgirl Museum. And so that means today we have Showgirl evangelist, producer of reviews such as 90 Degrees and Rising and It's Raining Men, and CEO and head curator of the Showgirl Museum, Grant Philipo.
And for Dummies on the Street,
we have mobster turned witness protection magician Vinnie Two-Times interviewing actor and comedian Keith Lyle.
Keith Lyle, you mean the Change Only 10,000 guy from the Hangover movie? Mm-hmm. What a great Vegas movie and awesomeness.
Exactly. And you know what else would be awesomeness?
Would that be going to the pool and meeting our guests?
Yes.
Let's do it. Right this way.
Hi, folks. As promised, Steve Dennis and I are here with Gerald Dean.
Two names, not one.
Yeah, 2 names. And he is not only a very funny guy, but the host of the Local Joker podcast. So how does Geraldine, not Geraldine, get started in comedy?
It starts right away with the name. Like, I had no choice but to do comedy with a name like Geraldine. Because, like I said, they look for different angles on my name. Like Flip Wilson, or how come you're not wearing a dress? So I have to let them know it's 2 names, not one. And like throughout school and everywhere, like it always has been a subject of topic, right? So.
Well, I like the way when you start your routine when you're on stage, you have to go through that whole process, and I love it's Gerald
Dean
with a pause. It's very nice.
And that's what I say too. I was like, it's Gerald pause
Dean.
D-E-A-N.
So you just get that out of the way.
Right.
And speaking of stage, what was your first time on stage like?
It was actually pretty fun. So my first time, like official first time on stage, I got called up on stage prior to an open mic. So I was there for an open mic, but right before the open mic they had a show, and I'm sitting in front row.
So you were set to make your debut anyway.
Right.
Okay.
So everybody knows you really don't sit in the front row unless you get called on and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the time I was like, oh, it's fine, I should sit there. And then I'm looking up like this still face, just watching, thinking, okay, I'm gonna go on. And the guy calls me out, like, why aren't you laughing?
Oh.
And his whole bit was like about a kangaroo or something.
That is always so funny.
Right.
It's a killer bit.
It was talking about he would live in the pouch or something. And I was like I was overanalyzing. You can't do that. It's stupid. Like
I could write a better punchline.
Right. So I'm sitting there, and then he's like, well, how come you're not laughing? I was like, well, I don't find it funny. And he's like, can you do better? I was like, maybe. And I get on stage, right? They call like that's exactly what the whole audience, everybody did ooh. And the manager, he's like, he's already signed up for open mic, so you might as well let him go up. Like over loud, and they was like, okay, let's see what you can do. And I told a joke about how my mother's super supportive, like too supportive. And she was like, what are you gonna do with your life when you grow up? I was like, I don't know, maybe porno.
Oh.
And I thought that would just get her to leave me alone. No, the next day she comes home with the girl next door, whole camera set, cash, and said, I will direct your next film, baby, let's go. And like everybody loved it, and I was like, that's too much, Mom. So it was pretty good. And then from then I just kept going.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. The laugh and the uproar is so infectious. It's like chasing the dragon, right? You always want that that whole uproar and
it's
energy.
Instant credibility, instant feedback of what you're doing. It's
exactly.
Justification
so
for
it's
what
like
your craft is.
The most glorious, and it can be the most horrible feeling because if you don't get that gratification right away.
Based on that, what is the, and you know what, I don't want to say worst bomb, but what is that one time that you're like, ugh?
Oh. Yeah, like a war story.
Oh.
Come on. This.
Oh. Okay. So I like shock value stuff sometimes on stage, and like it had the Boston Marathon shooting thing or the bomb, and I was like, hey, have you seen that bomb-ass marathon?
Oh.
And I was like, I was watching Flavor of Love. I'm talking about that marathon that was on TV all day.
Of course, yes.
Right?
Yes, all good things start with a flavor of love.
Right. And then I told a joke that people felt like it was too soon, but it was about Trayvon Martin.
Oh.
And it's not even that bad of a joke. It's kind of like the Chris Rock G.I. Jane joke. It's not that bad, but they said it was too soon.
The timing.
Did you get a slap?
No, I didn't get a slap.
Next time.
I got a slap in the face with nobody saying anything. No
The worst
reaction.
slap in the face
Right,
of all,
the
yes.
hugest slap in the face. And the joke, I'll tell you it right now, the joke is not even that bad. The joke is, we're all mad at George Zimmerman for what happened. I understand that. But we do know that Trayvon Martin went to heaven. How do we know that? His hoodie was holy. So it's like true.
Well, timing,
place, right?
Presenter,
all that.
But you took a risk.
I took a huge risk.
Yes, and the risk, it wasn't appreciated, but you're an artist, man.
Right.
And so, what's the worst intro you ever got?
It was the same night.
So this was like the
Right.
night where
It was like all bad nights. It was the same night where I was just going downhill with the terrible timing jokes, and the host brought me up. He knew my name and refused to say my name, Gerald Dean. He was like, I don't like that. It just feels suspicious. So he's like, all right, y'all ready for the next comedian? He could be funny, and his name is Gerald. I'm gonna just say his name is Gerald, and he brings me up, and I'm like, oh, hey, my name is Gerald Dean. That's too, like, it just didn't even flow right now because it.
You got to do your own setup.
Yeah, it gives it, when they do it, then I come up and they're like, oh, that doesn't look like a Geraldine, so then I can say two names, not one. And yeah, and then from then on, it just went downhill. And I threw in that Trayvon Martin joke. I should have known. I should have known.
So, hey, if you're going to go big, you're going to go big. So you went big. I got to give you that. And tell us about the Local Joker podcast.
Local Joker podcast is my podcast where I interview up-and-coming comedians or comedians that's been around, just to see how things are with the comic scene and how comics view things in different areas or where they're from, and if they've been out here in Vegas or if they've been other places, and get some comparison. And then we play games, we have fun. It's a cool little show. I also do like a, what is it called, advice time, where I read a story out there, and then the person that I'm interviewing tries to give advice to the story to help about. And it can be fun advice, or it can be serious advice. Either way, we have a good time, and it's a really good show.
And what makes the Vegas scene different and interesting?
For a while, it's up and down. Sometimes everybody works together and want to do things, and then they're like, people block off and do like these cliques and hate each other, and it's weird. But it's fun, and it seems like it's trying to grow and change. We've got new comedy clubs coming out and everything, so it's really cool now that it's really,
I want to ask a question. This is a question I used to get back in the day. Is if you could open for any comic legend, living, dead, or imaginary, who would that be?
Flip Wilson. That'd be awesome.
Geraldine.
Right, Geraldine, and then he does his bit, Geraldine. That would be hilarious. I also would like to open for what's his name, Robin Harris.
Oh, Robin Harris, yep.
Oh,
he was brilliant. Yes.
He's really, and then Bernie Mac as well. Like if they were both on the same show, and I could open for them together.
Oh, three of the greatest.
Right.
Yes.
Those are really. And then currently, I don't know. Because a lot of comedians are just always all over the place. I don't know currently.
I'm shocked I didn't hear Larry the Cable Guy.
I know,
Larry the
seriously.
Cable Guy?
Yeah, Larry the Cable Guy.
Mater?
Exactly.
So anyway, folks, if you get a chance, check out the Local Joker podcast. I was a guest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you should totally check it out. It's great. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, thank you. Thanks for
Over
having me.
here, there we go.
Oh, this is
Gerald
awesome.
Dean.
Yes.
Not Geraldine.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
I'm here with mobster turned magician Vinnie Two-Times. Yo, what's up? And Keith Lyle the Hangover. Yo, Keith, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The question is, what is the wildest thing to happen on the set of The Hangover?
Well, we were filming in the Riviera, and it was a live casino at the time. So everyone was playing and everything, and people were walking through. And one of the guys in the crew saw this woman walk by and said, "Hey, I think that's the stripper that rolled me last night and took my wallet. We gotta go get her." And then they chased her down and tried to get their wallet back.
You know what they say. It takes two to keep a secret if one is. You can't say that. You can't threaten Keith like that. Well, listen. You're a good man, so I'm going to give you another chance to redeem yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
The question is, how many security guards does it take to throw a slot cheat off the top of the stratosphere?
Sir, I'm not sure, but I'm going to say not many.
Well, you're almost correct. The answer is none. He fell. Accidents happen.
Accidents happen.
Now you know where the bodies are buried, right?
I do. I worked in a casino for almost 25 years. Yes, sir.
You're not gonna tell, right?
Tell what?
Attaboy. Now, if you really want to redeem yourself, look into the camera and say, Vinnie Two-Times is innocent.
Vinnie Two-Times is innocent. The government is against him. They conspired to set him up. He has done nothing wrong.
Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about. Now, one more thing. Where's a website where people can find you?
My website is funnykeithlyle.com, and I'm on social media at funnykeithlyle.
Good. Funny Keith Lyle. No funny business. He does not sleep with the fishes. Thank you. You can kiss the ring.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, we made it out to the pool again right here by the Pepper Club at the English Hotel. April, what's going on?
Well, as promised, we have Grant Philipo. And Grant, you have done everything. You have been a showboy. You have been a costume designer. You have been a producer of both 90 Degrees and Rising and It's Raining Men, which I love the name of that show. And now you are head curator and CEO of the Showgirl Museum. Now, quick question. How does a 1915 scandalous bikini in Iowa figure into your story?
Well, that's how the collecting all started. My great-grandmother, she was known as a bad girl. She had money, and she went to some friend that knew how to sew, and she said, make me a swimsuit with no sleeves and very little leggings, which was scandalous. And, you know, she did. And everybody, of course, was terrible and called her a slut and all kinds of other things.
They were just jealous.
Yeah. Well, she had read the book, The Scarlet Letter. So she embroidered a red letter M on the front. Basically, her name was Mabel, and that was her way of saying, screw you. But
I like Mabel.
when I was about 15 years of age, she gave it to me, and she dated Clyde, a Bonnie and Clyde. She used to date those old-time wrestlers that everybody would laugh at if they saw them today. But she was my all-time favorite person on the planet. So her giving that to me and me dragging that all over the country, everywhere I've lived, that is the oldest thing. It's 107 years old.
Neat.
Wow.
So I was blessed to have taken over the old Debbie Reynolds Hotel Casino and showrooms back in the day, and I had to brush up against glitz and glamour. But what's it like to be the custodian of glitz and glamour for the world?
Well, it's a lot of fun because, people come in to the museum, and we have a little more than 250 mannequins that are costume and on display, and to date I have never had one person physically come in there that wasn't blown away by it.
Oh yeah.
And our biggest clients are heterosexual men. And it's not because of the topless women, it's because they don't realize when they come in there that these girls are wearing costumes that are welded and soldered.
Okay.
And they get such an appreciation for the strength of the women that have carried these things for years, and they look like it's nothing. And I think it's also exciting for them to be up close and personal. When you're sitting in the theater, you're so far away, you don't see
how it's made and all that. And we explain all that. We let them know exactly, how it's put together. But it's a lot of fun for me. Of course, I want our public venue. Do you have a big enough room here? But we've been working on that forever. We worked on it with the mayor for 2.5 years. We became a nonprofit, and we just have to find a facility that is big enough. And we have a couple of places we really want.
And it's currently in your house right now, right?
Yeah, but luckily the house is over 7,000 square feet.
Wow.
So
It makes a difference.
yeah, it makes it easier,
And speaking of which, you live around all these beautiful costumes. I understand the word couture makes you crazy.
Yeah. Only because, sorry about that,
It's all right.
most people don't know what it means, and they get all bent out of shape because a lot of people who I've worked with in my life, and they say, I'm a couturier, and they're like, you should kiss their feet, basically. And it's like, wait a minute. My great-grandmother was a couturier. Probably your mother was a couturier. All it means is it was made by hand. You cannot touch it with a sewing machine.
My great-grandmother was a couturier.
Exactly. So, I always ask people, I quiz them throughout the tour. So it is educational, historical, but, I'll ask them, it means it's one of a kind, and it's blah, 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 and they go on and on. They do get one thing right. They'll say it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And that's true. We have one gown that was originally designed for Dalida. If you ever look her up, she was the top grossing singer in Europe, including Asia and Africa. She even performed in England and the United States.
Speaking of Dalida and legends, I understand that you made a celebrity cry.
Oh yeah. And Margaret.
Wow.
Who I adore, who there's nobody as fabulous as her. But it was because when we were trying to get her for the Hollywood Wax Museum, which I used to be the artistic director of, and I had promised them that if I designed this big salute to Vegas, I would get actual costumes from Bob Mackie and all these great, designers. So when we went to her and we asked if she would do it, they came back and said, absolutely not. She doesn't want anyone to remember the days that she performed on stage.
Ooh.
She's an actress.
Oh, wow.
And that is what she wants people to remember. When they said she didn't want to be remembered that way, I then sent them a letter and I said, on this date, it was my birthday, and I worked with her, and I was so honored, not only because it was my birthday and she was phenomenal. Anyway, I wrote all this in a letter, and I said, being a professional singer and dancer, model, it was some people would die to have been in your show or to be in Julia Prowse's show, because we knew that you guys really sang and really danced. And I said, for you to say all these years later that you don't want anyone to remember that, I said, that is so wrong. I said, most people, if they're lucky, they're like a double hit or a triple. But you're like 4 or 5 times. You've done all these things, and you do them all so well. Why in the world would you be ashamed of that? And I said, it really breaks my heart, because I just think the world of you. So her manager called me on the phone and said, well, kid, you did it. You made her cry. And he said, so as long as her husband, Roger Smith, who has since passed away, but who was absolutely gorgeous, as long as he approves of the wax figure, then you can have any Bob Mackie costume that they had, and that's what we have.
Wow.
Very cool.
That's very cool. And so what is your favorite costume piece?
It's kind of hard to say. It's amazing that we have so many phenomenal designers like Pete Menefee and Bob Mackie, and yet a lot of times they'll pick something that I made. We do have the rivals, the Anne Margaret, because of course it's couture, Bob Mackie. But we also have Michael Travis did a dress for Raquel Welch. And it's a very special dress because the dress itself has 39-inch breast and a 17-inch waist.
Wow, that is amazing.
And she was on Laugh-In, Rowena Martin's Laugh-In, and it's solid bugle beads, which they didn't do a lot of. But of course, the $1 million gown, it's just stunning to look at. You know, it's on a revolve, and all the work that went into that. He actually had it half done, and then he came to the United States and met Siegfried and Roy.
Wow.
And Lynette Chappelle, who I'm very proud that I designed and built all of her public appearance outfits. He then completed the dress for her. And even though it's valued at $1 million, she actually gave it to me.
Wow.
Wow. What do you see as the future for the Las Vegas Showgirl?
Well, I still produce shows, so of course, I'm going to bring the Showgirl back.
Yes, he is. Don't you think so, Steve?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Makes no sense not to have it. And somebody has to replace those girls on the sidewalk.
No, and
The tribute artist.
Yeah.
tribute artist, yes. And
I wouldn't refer to that.
and lastly, if you could design a costume for anybody that you haven't designed a costume for, who would it be?
Cher.
Cher. All right, there you
Cher.
have it. Cher, get in touch with this man.
Well, the crazy thing is, I didn't know that she and Bob had split for a little while, and she was using other people. If I had found out, I would have done it. I made an outfit for Lynette, and she and Siegfried and Roy went to the show. Of course, went backstage, and Cher fell in love with it and gave me 4 comps to her show.
Nice.
Oh, wow,
So-
sweet. So Cher, get in touch with this man. He is available. And Grant, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And come to the Showgirl Museum. I want to
Yes.
see all these costume pieces now. And Steve, I want to see you in that zebra dress.
I'm intrigued, and I'm looking forward to my fitting.
Trust me, they're always entertaining. And go to showgirlmuseum.com.
Great show today, April. How are things back in Bethel Park?
Well, Steve, remember my cousin Ricky B, who graduated first in his class from rehab?
Vaguely.
Well, he was on his way to Las Vegas to meet you because he's been watching your Cash or Crash YouTube channel, but he ran into some issues.
He's a probation officer.
Oh no, that was last week. This week, it's the traffic circles.
You mean the roundabouts, though?
I'm getting to the point, I promise. But as you know, Massachusetts has a lot of traffic circles.
I thought he was headed to Vegas, though, April.
Oh, he was. But you see, Ricky B meant to go west on the turnpike, but he ended up going east. You know how easy it is to get east and west mixed up.
In some cases, I suppose I could see that.
So anyway, he ended up in Boston.
Boston? No offense, but Boston's like a long way from Vegas.
That's where you're wrong, Steve. You see, our family priest said that geographic barriers only exist in your mind and in your heart.
And on a map.
Well, anyway, Ricky got to Boston, hit the traffic circle, and didn't know where to go next.
And so he just went round and round and round, circle over and over and over again.
But that's not the best part.
Wait a minute, it gets better?
It gets better. You see, after several hours and an upset stomach, Ricky B finally figured out you go on one end and out the other.
I'm glad he found his way out of the traffic circle. So what, we should see him here in like 5 days?
Actually, more like 7 or 8.
7 or 8 days, what?
He's in Atlanta now.
Atlanta, that makes absolutely no sense at all.
That's where you're wrong, Steve. You know how confusing those traffic circles can be.
GLVB.
Gotta love Vegas, baby.
At the English Hotel. From the city of entertainment, April in Vegas.